One thing people say all the time about mobile gaming is that Android doesn't have any good games. Maybe that was true in the past, but nowadays there are some genuinely amazing titles, and today I'm going to show you a few of the best. There are games for just about every type of player and every genre, so all you have to do is leave a like and let's get started. One style of game that fits really well with Android is tactical RPGs. So let's talk about one of the best ones, Sword of CONVALLARIA. This game is basically divided into two different parts. The first one is the story mode, and I have to say it's actually very interesting. The game focuses on a great city caught in a civil war where you'll have to make important choices and meet many different characters along the way. The second part is the more online focused side of the game, where you collect characters through a gacha system, grind to upgrade your team, and of course fight countless enemies. The gameplay feels very similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's probably one of the reasons why this game is so enjoyable. It combines strategy, storytelling, and classic tactical RPG elements in a really impressive way. Even though this game is technically a little more abandoned nowadays, I still think it's worth knowing because it offers a really fun experience. Let's talk about T3 Arena. I think this is probably the closest thing we have to an Overwatch style mobile game, or even something similar to Valorant. The original idea was focused on 3 versus 3 matches, but after many updates, most players nowadays are more focused on the 5 versus 5 mode. The game modes are pretty familiar, with objectives like pushing a payload or classic team deathmatch. However, the biggest difference is definitely the characters. Instead of choosing regular weapons, each hero has unique abilities that completely change the way you play, and it doesn't stop there. The characters also have different roles, such as support characters that can heal, teammates or tank characters designed to absorb more damage. It's a very unique shooter experience on mobile and definitely deserves more attention. Tales of BLOOMRISE is one of those games hidden on the Play Store that a lot of people don't know about, so let's talk about it. This is a really charming game with a beautiful art style that gives you a lot of freedom to explore the city however you want. Your main goal is to turn your character into a great adventurer, but first you'll have to overcome several challenges along the way. The best part is that the game features an open map where you can explore, talk to NPCs, upgrade your character, and follow the story at your own pace. Since it uses an isometric pixel art style, it feels perfect for playing on Android. This is definitely one of those underrated games on the Play Store that deserves more attention. A lot of people are looking for a more classic and mature MMORPG experience, and this game delivers exactly that. Let's talk about TORAM Online. One of the coolest things about this game is that it doesn't use traditional classes. Instead, you equip a weapon and that weapon basically becomes your character's class. You don't need to create multiple characters because each weapon offers different abilities and playstyles. This is basically the kind of old school MMORPG that many players miss. The game doesn't constantly guide you, there is no automatic mode, and you'll probably die a lot while learning how everything works. But the best part is that it has a very loyal community, so it's unlikely to disappear after just a few months. It's definitely one of the best MMORPGs available on the Play Store, and a game that is absolutely worth trying. The truth is that a lot of people have already forgotten about this game. It was released back in 2020 and it's definitely one of the best RPGs available on mobile. Let's talk about Trials of Mana. I don't know much about the story of this game because technically it's a remake of a much older classic. You play with up to 6 different characters on a journey to save a kingdom. The cool thing is that each character has their own personality, abilities, and story, which means you can experience the game in different ways. This is the type of RPG that Android is really missing. Even though it's an older title, almost nobody talks about it anymore, and what's even more impressive is that it's completely offline and doesn't require a massive amount of storage like many modern games that can take up 19 gigabytes or more. The truth is, this is easily considered one of the best offline RPGs you can find on the Play Store. If you enjoy MMORPGs and you're looking for a new game to get excited about and play every day, let me introduce you to Raven 2. The story revolves around the divine war where the gods defeated the titans and their creators divided the world into two sides, the celestial realm and the demonic realm, with humans caught in the middle. The game features a more mature storyline that explores different conflicts and even many deaths along the way. It's actually interesting to watch the cutscenes and follow the narrative to understand what's happening. The gameplay itself is a little more familiar, but the open world is truly impressive. The game also recently gained a lot of attention for another reason. Its characters are definitely very eye-catching, let's put it that way, but beyond that it's still a solid MMORPG with a lot to offer. Maybe the first racing game on our list is one that was also released recently and is actually very interesting. Let's talk about Slick Tires. I honestly don't know why this racing game didn't become more popular, because it has almost everything a great racing game needs. It already features around 50 different cars and a huge open world for you to explore from top to bottom. Another great thing is that the game isn't limited to just regular races. You can compete in drift events, drag races, and different types of challenges. You can freely drive around the map, explore the city, and the world feels alive with plenty of people around. It's a very well-made game, but maybe because it's still new, it's just taking some time to find its audience. It's kind of like an MMORPG, or maybe even an online RPG, but in a unique 2D format. Let's talk about Soul Guardians. I believe the game actually has a decent story, but honestly it's mostly an excuse to send you on missions and let you defeat tons of enemies. And the thing that really caught my attention is its 2D style, which reminded me a lot of Grand Chase. And the game is still very new, having been released less than a month ago, and it already features around 15 different characters. On top of that, it has 12 worlds with a story mode for you to complete, along with several online modes where you can play with other people. It's a very underrated game on the Play Store, but it's definitely worth checking out. I don't think there's a better genre to play with friends if you just want to have a good laugh. And now we're going to talk about a game called Specimen Zero. Basically, this is a horror game where you and your friends have to escape from different terrifying monsters while opening doors, searching for keys, and trying to survive. Of course, all of this ends up creating some really funny moments. The cool thing about this game is that the monster is actually controlled by the game, not by another player. And it's not just one enemy either. There are several different creatures hunting you throughout the game. The gameplay is pretty simple. You start trapped inside a hospital and need to solve puzzles to escape the location. One of the best features is the voice chat system, which makes playing with friends even more fun. If you're looking for an offline game, this is one you definitely need to know. It's a very fast-paced experience. Let's talk about Super Mambo Quest. There's not much mystery here. You play as this character with a huge open mouth, and your goal is to collect as many stars as possible while defeating enemies along the way. It's basically the classic 2D platformer formula done right. The difference is that speed plays a huge role in this game. The more enemies you defeat in a row, the more points you earn, and the faster you reach the end of each stage, the better your score will be. On paper, it looks like a simple game, but in practice, it requires a lot of skill and quick reactions to master. Here's another game that was brought to mobile by Crunchyroll, and surprisingly a lot of people don't even know it was released. Let's talk about GUNGRAVE GORE Ultimate Edition. I know this series originally became popular on the PlayStation 2, but honestly this mobile version almost feels like its own game. The port is really well done and the touchscreen controls work surprisingly well. You play as a mercenary whose mission is to take down waves of dangerous enemies. The story isn't the main focus here. The real highlight is the action-packed gameplay. You have dual firearms, a powerful melee weapon, and of course the massive weapon you carry on your back. It delivers the same fast-paced, over-the-top action that made games like God of War and Devil May Cry so popular on the PlayStation 2. I honestly thought this game was going to be a huge success on the Play Store, but it ended up doing even better than I expected. Let's talk about HEARTOPIA. Unlike many games on our list, this one is focused on a much more relaxing experience. After creating your character, you enter an open world filled with other players and plenty of activities to enjoy. The missions include fishing, catching insects, decorating your own house, and of course interacting with many different NPCs. The game was also released on Steam before coming to mobile, where it became popular, and now it's becoming a huge success on Android as well. I think this game is worth checking out if you enjoy cozy and relaxing experiences. When it comes to this genre, it's definitely one of the best options available on the Play Store. It's actually pretty difficult to find a truly realistic FPS on the Play Store, and this is one of the few that really stands out. Let's talk about Lost Light. A lot of people confuse this game with a battle royale because at first glance it seems to have a similar concept. However, this is more of an extraction shooter where you can collect items and successfully complete a match without even needing to eliminate other players. The biggest highlight is definitely the realism. From weapon recoil to inventory management, every detail requires attention. When you take damage, your character actually gets injured, making every decision much more important. Unlike the thousands of FPS games available on the Play Store, Lost Light tries to offer something completely different, and honestly, I don't understand why this game isn't more popular. I'm honestly surprised by how unknown this game is on the Play Store because it's actually a really good title. Let's talk about Phantom Blade Executioners. To be honest, I don't know much about the story of this game. What I found is that it's a Chinese game and it probably has a lot of Chinese culture and mythology included, especially because the monsters have a very unique design and style. As you can see, it's a 2D action game where you control your character, move forward and defeat waves of enemies, but this is the type of game that becomes addictive because the gameplay feels extremely smooth and satisfying. It also features different characters with unique abilities and playstyles along with many different stages for you to complete. It's definitely one of those hidden gems on the Play Store that deserves more attention. We finally have a true Pokemon game on mobile, so let's talk about the latest release, Pokemon Champions. There have been plenty of Pokemon games on Android over the years, but most of them feel like spin-offs such as Pokemon Quest. This one, however, is much closer to the classic Pokemon experience, featuring traditional turn-based RPG battles against a wide variety of Pokemon. You can create your own character, build your team, and challenge multiple Pokemon gyms just like in the classic games. It feels so faithful to the original formula that it's honestly surprising it took this long to arrive on mobile. And of course, if you're a Pokemon fan, this is one game you definitely shouldn't miss. I honestly love the pixel art style of this game, and I also really like how it works as a great hack and slash experience. Let's talk about DARKRISE. The game gives you 3 main characters to choose from, and I highly recommend picking the archer or the mage because they are some of the strongest options. After that, you can see that the game is basically a dungeon crawler experience, but without the traditional dungeons. Your objective is to stop a massive monster invasion in the city by defeating as many enemies as possible. However, what really stands out is the gameplay. The abilities are easy to use and your basic attacks will save you many times during battles. It's one of those games that becomes incredibly addictive simply because the combat feels so satisfying. DRIFTFALL was released recently and quickly surprised a lot of players with its unique and polished gameplay. Let's take a look.
W.
Your objective is to keep your massive airship flying while solving puzzles and defeating enemies along the way. Even though the game has been out for less than a month, it already features around 10 different characters for you to unlock. The best part is that each character changes the way you play, keeping the gameplay fresh even when the missions are similar. It's a game that's getting a lot of attention thanks to its impressive graphics and its incredibly fun gameplay. When it comes to more modern survival games, especially those open world online experiences, this is definitely one of the most underrated. Let's talk about Earth Revival.
Thugs, watch out!
Unlike many games in the same genre, this one takes place in a completely different world filled with aliens where your goal is to explore, survive, and take control of this new environment. This changes the entire focus of the game since most survival games usually rely on zombies as the main threat. Of course, Yo-Yo still fights some weaker creatures along the way, but the main challenge is taking down the massive alien enemies. However, at the beginning, the experience is similar to other survival games. You start in an open world, build your own base, complete missions, and upgrade your character. The game also features cooperative missions and PvP modes, making it a very complete survival experience. I honestly think this game is kind of like an MMO survival experience. Let's talk about a game called FROSTBORN. This game manages to combine 2 different styles really well. At the beginning, it feels like a traditional survival game where you need to level up your character, build your own base, gather resources, and fight against many zombies. But as you progress, the game introduces maps where you can encounter other players. And that's when it starts feeling more like an MMO. After reaching a certain level, you can even choose a class for your character and fight massive creatures to keep improving. That's where the RPG elements come in. The game successfully mixes survival, MMO, and RPG mechanics into one experience. It's an older title on the Play Store, but it's still definitely worth trying. know a lot of people enjoy games where you can just relax and have fun without taking things too seriously, so let's talk about Goat Simulator. Honestly, there's not much to explain here. You play as a goat and your main goal is to cause as much chaos around the city as possible. It's a simple concept, but it's absolutely hilarious. Just like GTA, the game features a huge open world packed with things to explore. Of course, nothing in this game makes any sense. You can lift an entire car using nothing but your goat's tongue. There are a few objectives to complete, but the real point of the game is simply to have fun and enjoy the ridiculous moments it creates. A lot of people forget that it's also available on Android, and it's definitely worth checking out. I honestly think card games are a perfect fit for Android. Now let's talk about a hidden gem on the Play Store called Abyssal Soul. When it comes to card games, the concept is pretty simple. Enemies appear in front of you, your cards are displayed at the bottom of the screen, and you have to choose the best ones for each situation. Of course, every game has its own unique mechanics. For example, this one is played from a first-person perspective, and some of the cutscenes are surprisingly well made, and it's also much more realistic than most card games you'll find on the Play Store, while featuring roguelike elements that make every run feel different. I think that's exactly what makes this game so addictive. Even if you're not usually into card games, it's easy to learn but offers plenty of depth once you get the hang of it. Ares, the Iron Vanguard is one of those MMORPGs that almost feels like a single-player action RPG because of how well it's made. Let's talk about it. The game kicks off with an intense story where civilization is under attack by an alien invasion. Your mission is to join forces with other NPCs and fight back against the threat. One of the biggest highlights is the graphics. They're incredibly impressive, from the massive open world to the detailed character customization. The action combat is also excellent and doesn't feel like a typical MMORPG at all. In fact, it plays much more like a fast-paced action game. You'll also run into other players as you explore the world, making it a really fun and enjoyable MMORPG to play. Astro Arena was released recently and is already getting a lot of attention because of its simple and fun PvP gameplay. Let's talk about it. This is a game where you can play cooperatively with your friends or jump into PvP matches. Depending on what type of experience you're looking for, it's worth mentioning that the game has been out for less than a month and it already features around 15 different characters, with probably more coming in the future. It includes classic game modes such as Team Deathmatch, but the gameplay has a unique twist. To use your abilities, you need to stop your character for a moment, and this small mechanic completely changes how you approach battles. The game has been receiving a lot of positive feedback on the Play Store, and it's definitely worth trying, especially if you're looking for a new online game to play. Another really old game on our list, but one that is definitely a masterpiece and still worth checking out. Let's talk about BATTLEHEART. In this game, your goal is to survive waves of monsters while keeping all of your characters alive. Since we're talking about a game from 2012, it is a bit limited when it comes to the number of characters, but each one still has unique abilities and playstyles. For example, the Bard is a very unique character, while the Monk works almost like an assassin who can also heal your team. I think the best part of this game is how you control and move your characters during battles. It creates a very different and strategic experience, and the gameplay is incredibly addictive. This is a really fun game, but its career mode is what makes it even better. Now let's talk about Blades of DECERON. Your goal is to become the greatest warrior by defeating every enemy that stands in your way. It sounds simple, but the gameplay makes the challenge much harder than you'd expect. The best part is the way your character moves. This isn't your typical fighting game. Your movements feel awkward on purpose, and your attacks can be surprisingly unpredictable. That's exactly what makes the game so entertaining. Every fight feels different, and that's easily one of its biggest strengths. But don't think it's an unfinished game. It's actually very polished, featuring a full career mode and even a proper ending to complete. And that's it for today's list. These are some of the best Android games you can play right now. If you found a new game to try, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more mobile gaming content. See you in the next video.